the sun. From the earth to the sun, we are traveling on the race.
Hi everybody, it's Mateusz from the Cosmos Within Us, and today I'm bringing you the astrology of the month of June. Today's 1st of June, and we are 2 days after the new moon. As you might remember, we had a new moon in Gemini 2 days ago, and so right now we are in the new moon phase of the lunar cycle. The moon is still dark, but the energy is growing. The moon is growing, and it's gonna get bigger and bigger, brighter and brighter every day, and we are basically counting days until the full moon, which is gonna be a climax of that lunar cycle, and is going to happen on June 14th. That's gonna be our full moon in Sagittarius. On June 3rd, so 2 days from now, Mercury will finish retrograding and will go direct. Before that will happen, Mercury will stop for a moment. We call this period stationary. So that's going to be around 1 day, June 2nd, when Mercury will apparently stop. And that is probably the most potent moment when it comes to the concentration of the energy of the planet. So Mercury, ruling mind and the communication, will be stationary, and that marks a moment of a significant focus of the Mercurian energy. Mercury is going to be still in Taurus, so that's a focus on a very physical, tangible things. Taurus is the earth sign, and Taurus is so much about bringing a form to things. So that's where our mind, that's where our Mercury will be, how to create a form, how to give a form to the most intangible and abstract thoughts and ideas. On June 3rd, Mercury will go direct, but it will still take some time for the planet to regain its full speed and the usual mode of operating. And so we call this period a shadow, the retrograde shadow. So until June 18th, Mercury will be still in a shadow, but already moving forward. Mercury goes direct, and the day after that, June 4th, Saturn goes retrograde. Saturn is retrograding around 5 months during the year, so I don't think this period is going to bring any dramatic changes. I hope no, to our life, or maybe the positive ones. But I think it's good to remember that Saturn rules all the legal stuff, formalities, administrations and offices. So the processing of all the paperwork, permits, all the things that we applied for or send our papers somewhere, that might take a little bit more time during Saturn retrograde. From my experience, I remember that the periods of the Saturn retrograde very often feels like it's difficult to accomplish something. Very often the way it works, at least from my experience, is that we were working on some kind of a project, and there's just last piece that needs to be finished in order for the whole project or thing to be considered as accomplished, and this one last piece of a puzzle is missing, or somebody is getting late with delivering it, this kind of a situation. So the thing is almost done, almost accomplished, but not entirely, not fully, and sometimes we have to wait. Sometimes it works the way that things are almost operational and approved, but there is just one thing that still needs to be fixed. We can use and function within what we have, but sometimes we have to wait a little bit more time for all things come together. And Saturn will finish retrograding on October 23rd, so we have good amount of time to enjoy. June 7th, This is exactly the halfway between the new moon and the full moon, and this is a period in the lunar cycle that we call first quarter square. This is one of the critical points in the lunar cycle when moon is just about to reflect its light with more than half of its capacity. This is sometimes very difficult and a critical time when we need to take an action or make a decisions about something that has been initiated during the new moon. So whatever we started back then during the new moon, whatever we have initiated there, whatever seeds we planted, or whatever has started for us, because sometimes this is the way it works, June 7th, the first quarter square, is a time when this process might face some challenge, and it needs a kind of a push. It needs a decision and actions to be taken in order to sometimes break through kind of a resistance. It's like a plant. The new moon is when we plant a seed, and the first quarter square is basically a shoot. It's the first shoot. So we are coming out from a dark phase of the moon, and this point marks kind of a breaking point between dark phase and a bright phase. Sometimes it takes some energy, decisions, and stronger actions to make this step out of the dark phase into brighter phase. This is also a time when we might get a little bit more understanding and the consciousness around what actually has been initiated during the new moon and what this whole lunar cycle is all about for us. This is a time of objectivization. This is a thing that whatever we were carrying inside since the new moon, we might be facing a challenges in bringing it out, sharing it, and bringing a light and understanding to this. This is also might be a phase. For example, if you look at this from the perspective of some kind of a project, when you plan something during the new moon, the first quarter square is the first time when you share your idea with somebody, or you share first fruit your actions with somebody, and you face the criticism. So then you realize that there are some things that needs to be changed. There are some adjustments that needs to be made, and this is kind of the energy of first quarter square as well. So if you are facing any kind of challenges around that time, all it takes is courage and some meaningful, maybe stronger steps to put it out there, to share it, and to confront this with the reality. Right after that, June 8th is one of these days with a lot of aspects. There's a lot of squares and oppositions. There's a beautiful grand earth trine for the first part of the day, but there are also squares and the opposition, so there is a dynamic energy and some challenges, but at the same time a lot of supportive energy that supports solutions and establishing things, bringing balance to anything that needs to be brought back to balance. The same day, moon enters Libra and is going to be opposing Jupiter, which is in first degrees of Aries. So we have this Aries Libra opposition, which is so much about bringing a balance between ourselves and the external environment. Aries and the planets that are in Aries, which are Jupiter and Mars, stands for what we want, our independence, assertiveness. The moon in Libra is very considerate of other people, very sensitive to other people's situations, and really taking under the consideration the emotional reality of other people. So this time really it's great to work on that kind of balance between ourselves, our own needs, and what we want and what we don't want, and the environment, what other people want, what makes other people happy, so nobody feels excluded. And if somebody feels excluded, then that's what it needs to be. The next day, June 9th, Moon still in Libra opposing Mars. That's kind of a continuation of the same story. Libra Aries opposition. We might feel that we want to be okay with everybody, please everybody, and make everybody happy, but at the same time Mars in Aries said, like, no, I don't want that, I want that thing. And if somebody has a problem with this, then this is what it is. These 2 days might be about balancing this level of our life experience. June 14th, this is where we have our full moon in Sagittarius. This activates Gemini Sagittarius axis because Sun will be still in Gemini, Moon in Sagittarius. Also Neptune will be involved in this full moon. Neptune in Pisces will create a T-square. So we will have this mutable T-square, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces. All these three signs are part of so-called learning cross. The Virgo is the last mutable sign, which is part of that quadruplicity, we could say. And all these signs, Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces, are about learning, but each one of them represents completely different mode of learning. Sun will be in Gemini, which is all about information, gathering information, learning, making connections between different ideas, concept, and information, also between people. But it's a very information-oriented mind. Sagittarius, this is where the full moon will be, is that archetype that changes the information into wisdom or into knowledge. And the Sagittarius also have much more to do with teaching. The Sagittarius Gemini axis is also student teacher axis, when Gemini is a student and the Sagittarius is a teacher. So we have these themes. Sagittarius is also much more intuitive than intellectual. And the third piece of a puzzle is Neptune in Pisces, which is totally non-intellectual and very strongly in tune to all kinds of intuitions, dreams, gut feelings, and a very subtle level of things. So these three signs are about learning, and this is going to be one of the themes of this full moon. How actually we are learning, how we are accessing the information, whether it's from books or the lecture or direct presence of the teacher, maybe, or our own deep exploration of our inner self, spiritual pursuits, and this kind of stuff, which is going to be, of course, Pisces. Good things to meditate on during this full moon. How are we actually learning? What are our channels of obtaining knowledge and informations? Full moon is also this part of a lunar cycle when things get illuminated, and when we sometimes getting kind of a revelation on the revelation on things that has been started or received during the new moon. The new moon, this is when we plant a seed. The full moon is when our seed blooms and flourishes. So this is the time of a clarity, and this is a time when we see things in a full light. And probably I will offer a separate video about a full moon closer to actual full moon. So around June 14th, this is when it's going to happen. A week between June 13th and 19th, that's going to be an interesting period, because this is a time when Sun is going to be square by Neptune and trine by Saturn. So Sun will be still in Gemini, Saturn will be in Aquarius, Neptune in Pisces. So Gemini Sun will be squared by the Pisces Neptune and trine by Aquarius Saturn. Especially Saturn in Aquarius, which is also an air sign, just like Gemini, brings a lot of clarification, crystallization. It's a very sobering energy that helps us to set some kind of a boundaries and understand the direction that we are going through right now during this cycle. Neptune in Pisces will work in a complete opposite way. It's going to blur the vision and draw things on the level of dreams, illusions, and spiritual connections, gut feelings, and very subtle things. So Saturn is influencing the Sun by aspect of trine, which is very supportive, and it helps to establish these things. Saturn is about establishing things, so that will create some kind of a counterbalance for square to Neptune. Square and the energy of Neptune will present a potential challenge or disruption of that clarity and crystallized sense of direction. This square might manifest itself as a kind of a conflict or a tension between our rational mind, what we know, what we've learned, and our, I could say, irrational mind, but I prefer the word trans-rational mind, which is symbolized by Neptune and Pisces. So we think that we know some stuff, and it gives some feeling of certainty, but then this Neptune in Pisces is asking us, like, really, is it really the way you think it is? Listen to your dreams, listen to your pay attention to your intuitions, because they are telling you something else. June 20th is a part of a lunar cycle that we call third quarter square, and it's also a critical point, but now it's a critical point in sharing whatever we received during the full moon, in sharing whatever we understood and gain the consciousness of during the full moon, because that was a illuminating part. Now when we have been illuminated about things, the idea is to share it, and this is all the second half of the cycle is how to share it, how to apply it. So the third quarter square might be some kind of a crisis in how to find a practical application for whatever we received during the full moon, how to apply it in everyday life, how to use it for the benefit of others, how to anchor this in our reality. June 21st, this is summer solstice. This is when Sun moves from Gemini to Cancer, so we're starting a Cancer season. Happy birthday to all the Cancers. This is a longest day during the whole year, the shortest night, final victory of the light over the darkness, and this also marks a midpoint in the year. So since now the days will get shorter, it's difficult to imagine, because I have a feeling that the winter has just finished, but time flies by, and these cycles progressed whether we want it or not, and however we feel about it. So that's the beauty of it. Cancer is a water element, really strong attunement to the emotions, but the Cancer and the fourth house symbolize the deep waters. It's like underground to water of our personalities, something that we don't really see, but it shapes our landscape. Also, this is pretty intense energy. The energy of a summer solstice is an intense energy. The sun is coming down pretty hard, and this intensity, for me, it's kind of similar to the intensity of the birth. right? The Cancer is a mother archetype. We are back deep into the waters. Remember that we just had recently Jupiter-Mars conjunction in Aries. Jupiter is still in the first degrees of Aries. On June 25th, we will have Sun Jupiter square, Sun in Cancer, Jupiter in Aries. So that's a cardinal square that might be, pretty challenging energy. But also, squares are good aspects, creative challenges, creative friction. This square might be pretty much about feminine and masculine energy. That's the tension, because Aries is very masculine sign, the Cancer is very feminine. That's a cardinal fire versus cardinal water. One represents pretty strong, straightforward, assertive energy, independent action, and cutting through the resistance of the matter. Aries and the Cancer, very soft, feminine energy of a mother, caring, water element, yielding, and really, paying attention to the emotions, feelings, and how other people feels. The Cancer always looks for an input, emotional input from other people. Aries doesn't really look so much for the input from other people, so that might be a tension of the time. And June 28th, 29th, this is where we are having our new moon in Cancer, and this is where we close this lunar cycle this month. So this is where we start paying attention to all the new moon themes. We are wrapping up the whole cycle, reflect upon the last month, learn from the experience, we look back, draw the conclusions, and we enter the new moon period, actually, the dark phase of the moon, the balsamic phase, which is so much about healing, regeneration, and going inside into the meditative state, reflecting upon whatever happened, and preparing for the new cycle. So these are the main highlights of the month of June. Of course, each day brings a completely different energy and a setup. Pay attention where things falls in your chart, in which house there is a new moon, in which house or which axis in your chart full moon activates. The new moon in Cancer, the end of June, where it falls, because this will gives a lot of directions and guidance where to look for the manifestation of this energy and how to work with it. Enjoy. Thanks very much. Subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.
We are like travelers